Irene, can you please lead us in a word of prayer?
Let's pray. Father, we thank you so much for this day. Thank you, Lord, for another milestone in the education sector, the successful completion and release of Senior 4 results to the nation. We thank you, Lord, that you watched over our learners as they wrote the examination. We thank you for the teachers. We thank you for the security. We thank you for all the stakeholders who made this a success. Thank you for Uneb and all the work that they did. Father, we now dedicate this release into your mighty able hands. We ask that it will please you to come and grace this event. We pray that you will guide everything. We commit every detail to you, Lord. We pray, Lord, that this will bring hope. It will bring joy to the nation. And Lord, even for those who have not made it as expected, we ask that you will continue to lead and guide their education process. We thank you, Lord, and we welcome you to preside over this release. We ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please take your seats. Honorable First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, on your behalf, allow me to welcome everyone who is present here and all those people who are listening and watching us on the media for this release of UCE 2022. Honorable Minister, First Lady, in the House we have Ministers of State, Honorable Kaduchu, Minister of State for Primary, Honorable Muyingo, Minister of State for Higher Education. We also have Honorable Members of Parliament who have joined us together today. We have Honorable Etuka Isaac, the MP for Upper Madi County is here. We have Honorable Isaac Katenya, the MP for Bulambuli is here. We have Honorable Fiona Nyamtoro, the female National Youth MP. First Lady, we also have in here the chairperson of Uneb, Professor Mary Okwakol. She's here. We have the Executive Director, Uneb, Mr. Dan Odong. We have senior members of Uneb. They're also here in the House. We have senior colleagues from Ministry of Education. We have security team. And we also have members of the press. You are all most welcome to this function. Let me now request Professor Mary Okwakol to come and give her opening remarks.
The First Lady and Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, Mama Janet Museveni, Honorable Ministers of State for Education, Honorable Members of Parliament, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education and Sports, the Executive Director, Uganda National Examinations Board, senior officers of the Ministry, senior officers of Uneb, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister, the Uganda National Examinations Board is pleased to present to you the results of the 2022 Uganda Certificate of Education, UCE examination for release to the public. This is in accordance with the mandate of the board under Section 1B of the Uneb Act of 2021. This examination was conducted between the 17th of October and 18th of November 2022. The examination was preceded by the mandatory briefing of candidates by the heads of centers on the 14th of October regarding the rules and regulations that they had to follow. We noted that the majority of heads of centers carried out the briefing. However, evidence available to us indicates that some did not do so, and as a result of this, some candidates committed acts of irregularities that could only be attributable to inadequate briefing. The board, therefore, would like to appeal to all heads of centers to take the briefing to candidates seriously so as to avoid avoidable cancellation of candidates' results. Honorable Minister, just like the PLE, whose results you recently released, the UCE was also conducted under the threat of Ebola in the areas where the disease had broken out. The challenges were more pronounced because the UCE examination lasted for 5 weeks during the Ebola outbreak. This called for great efforts on the part of UNEP and the other personnel involved to ensure that the standard operating procedures put in place by the Ministry of Health were observed at the examination centers. The restrictions placed on movements of persons initially impacted the movement of examination officials. The board then worked with the police, the offices of the resident district commissioners, and the area supervisors to deal with these challenges adequately. We thank God that no fatalities were reported among the candidates or the field personnel. Honorable Minister, you may recall that for the last examination in 2020, the board reported a drop in the candidature at this level, and this was due to the impact of COVID-19. Some schools had failed to reopen, leaving learners unable to find other schools. Many learners and teachers did not report back to school because they had found other activities. Some parents failed to get money to pay fees, among other reasons. I'm glad to report that there was significant increase in candidature by 4.8% this time. Honorable Minister, the ministry took cognizance of the impact of COVID-19 on learning time. The National Curriculum Development Center, therefore, produced an abridged curriculum that the candidates followed. UNEB accordingly based the 2022 UCE examination on this curriculum. The abridging of the curriculum did not affect the core knowledge, skills, and competencies that candidates were required to exhibit at UCE. Performance levels of 2020 and 2022 examinations can therefore be compared. Pass levels indicate that more places will be required in post-UCE institutions to accommodate the large numbers of candidates who have passed and will require placement. In the 2022 examination, the board added the Chinese language to the foreign languages it examines. The others are French, German, Arabic, and Latin. The board is grateful to the Chinese Embassy and the Confucius Institute at Makerere University for the provision of technical support. Honorable Minister, the teaching of science subjects will continue to require concerted efforts to improve performance to ensure that there are sufficient numbers of students for admission in the science-based disciplines at higher levels. The board applauds the efforts by government in the provision of laboratory equipment to schools, in the provision of in-service programs such as SESEMAT, as well as the recent enhancement of salaries to science teachers. It is our hope as UNEB that these interventions, some of which, like SESEMAT, have been on for a long time, translate into better performance by candidates. It is evident from the reports of the examiners that much of the teaching is theoretical and not sufficiently practical based. And this negatively impacts the outcome. I'm happy to report that cases of examination malpractice have drastically dropped compared to the previous examination. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the field officers for ensuring that candidates adhered to the regulations. I wish, on behalf of the board, to thank you, Honorable Minister, for your support to the board. This support has enabled the board to secure the necessary funds and adequate security for the management of the examination. The board provided oversight during the conduct of the examination. I would like to record appreciation to colleagues in the 10th board for the teamwork, commitment, and various contributions that they made. At this juncture, permit me to request the board members present to stand up for recognition. Thank you. Last but not least, I thank the Executive Director, management, and staff of the Secretariat of UNEB for the hard work they put in, day out, to ensure that the board is able to deliver on its mandate and in a timely manner. I congratulate the candidates who have passed the examination, the teachers who prepared them, and the parents and guardians for their support. I now invite the Executive Director to present the statement of release of the 2022 UCE results for your release to the public. After that, I will have the honor to present these results to you for release. I thank you for your kind attention.
The First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, the Honorable Ministers of State for Education, Honorable Members of Parliament here present, the Permanent Secretary, the Ministry of Education and Sports,
the chairperson, Uganda National Examinations Board, senior members of staff from the Ministry of Education and Sports and Uganda National Examinations Board, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister, the examination was conducted under the theme Integrity and Security in the Management of Examinations. The health and safety of learners is a joint responsibility. Mama, this theme was adopted to guide all the examination processes in the 2022 examinations. Mama, total candidature. The candidature for the 2022 examination increased by 16,063, representing 4.8%. This was from 333,396 in 2022. And that increased from that to 349,459. And as a chairperson, I said this reversed the decline in enrollment as we had seen in the year 2020. These candidates sat from 3,703 examination centers across the country. Of the total number of candidates that registered, 114,181 of the candidates were beneficiaries of the government Universal Secondary Education Program. The number of males that registered is 175,768. This is 50.3%, and that of females is 173,691. That is 49.7%, with a difference of slightly over 2,000 more males registering than the females. In 2019, Mama, the number of females had surpassed that of the males for the first time by about 398. We had expected that these would be observed also in 2020 and 2022. However, we note that the gap in favor of males appears to be resurfacing. Honorable Minister, in 2022, 345,695 candidates, that is 173,761 males and 171,934 females, appeared for this examination, compared to 330,592 in the previous year. And this is an increase of 15,103, or 4.6%. Mama, the statistics of registration over the last 5 years is given in Table 1, and we can see from that table the increases in registration, except, as we have already mentioned, in 2020, and also the increase in the number of candidates sitting, except in that year. Absenteeism had also been declining steadily, except that we observe, Mama, that this year that trend has reversed. We have slightly more candidates absent in this examination than the previous one, and this rose by about 0.3%, from 0.8 to 1.1%. Honorable Minister, we also had special needs education candidates at this level, and a total of 721 of these candidates, out of whom 389 were males and 332 females, they registered for the examination. And this compares to 519 in 2020. Mama, just like we saw with the PLE, there was also a large increase in candidature of this category of learners, that is 38.95%. And these consisted of the categories of the blind, those with low vision, those with hearing impairment or the deaf, the dyslexics, and those candidates that are physically handicapped. And then there were other candidates who are not in these categories, but they required for various reasons to be granted some extra time to write the examination. Honorable Minister, as we have done before, the board made adequate arrangements for these candidates, and these arrangements included modification of the question papers, provision of questions in braille form for the blind, providing support personnel to work with those that are physically handicapped and the dyslexics, and then the board also provided sign language interpreters for each deaf candidate to help interpret the instructions being given by the examinations officials. The candidates of low vision were given papers that had enlarged print, large enough for them to read without a lot of strain. And all these candidates were also accorded an extra 45 minutes to write each of the papers. Honorable Minister, allow me now to compare the general candidates' performance of 2022 and 2020 examinations. As the chairperson said, although we had the abridged curriculum, the manner in which the abridging was done did not affect the content, the knowledge, the skills, and the competencies that the candidates had to display in this particular examination. And therefore, we are able to compare the results of 2022 and that of 2020, and we do that in the table 2. We observe, Honorable Minister, that at Division 1, that is a first grade as it is sometimes called, we have 46,667 candidates. That is 13.5% of the candidates passing at that level. This compares to 12.1% in the previous examination. Therefore, at first grade or Division 1, we have an improved performance. Similarly, at grade 2, Division 2, we have 22.2% compared to 21.2%, giving us a cumulative percentage of 35.7% of our candidates obtaining second grade and above, compared to 33.3% in 2020. Meaning, again, Honorable Minister, that there was an improvement at that level. Honorable Minister, this improvement continues down the table, and you also observe that those that are unable to secure even grade 4, we don't want to call them failures, but the ones that have not been graded, the percentage also dropped from 5.6% to 4.6%. That's a 1% drop. So we can say overall that the performance of candidates in the 2022 examination was much better than that of 2020. Mama, we also compare subjects, selected subjects, because of the large entries, the number of candidates, and most of these are compulsory. We have English language, Christian religious education, and so on. And we also observe that if you look at percentage at 8, that is the overall pass. Better performance is shown in English language, Islamic religious education, geography, agriculture, physics, chemistry, biology, no, not biology, art. Those subjects, large entry subjects, showed increase in performance. There are a few others like Christian religious education, biology, and commerce that showed slight declines. Mathematics, we see that performance at the distinction level was much better than the previous year, but at the credit and the overall pass, there was a decline. English language had improved at the credit and the overall level pass, but there was a slight decline at the distinction level. Performance in biology, Honorable Minister, has continued to decline, as we have seen in the last few years, and that is a cause for worry. Worth noting, however, is that performance in physics and chemistry has improved, although the overall pass levels are still quite low compared to the other subjects. We also observe from the statistics that over 40% of the candidates that have taken these subjects have not passed, even at the minimum pass level of grade 8. As the chairperson mentioned, the board examined Chinese language for the first time in this examination. We registered a total of 134 candidates, and 124 of them passed. That is 92.5%. And this is a remarkable performance for the very first time we are offering Chinese. Ma'am, I want to inform you that the teachers of Chinese are not Chinese nationals, they are Ugandans. Even at Uganda National Examinations Board, the person responsible for the examination in Chinese is not a Chinese, but a Ugandan lady. The language is in addition to other major languages that the board is already examining, which the chairperson outlined. Mama, I will also compare the male, female, and male candidates' performance in table number 4. As always, the females outshine the males in English language. But when you compare performance in the other subjects, the females are a little lower. However, interestingly, in chemistry, where the difference at the grade 2 and grade 6 level among the males and the females is quite significant, when it comes to the overall pass by the candidates, the female candidates do slightly better. And we have observed this also in the past. And this trend in the disparity of performance between males and females, we have observed in the past. Table 5 now compares the divisional passes between the two, the gender of male and female. We observe, and this confirms that the male candidates have performed better, because at Division 1 or first grade, 15.5% of the males have passed, compared to 11.5% for the female. In grade 2 or Division 2, the males are 23.3%, and the females are 21.0%. The female candidates' percentages begin to show at the lower division levels, where you now have more females than the males. The Division 9 or the failed grades, also there are slightly fewer males than the females. So the table just confirms that that overall the male candidates have performed better. Allow me, Honorable Minister, also to report on special groups. The first are the inmates. The Uganda National Examinations Board maintains an examination center at Upper Prison Luzira for the inmates, and this is intended to assist the prison service efforts to rehabilitate offenders. This time, Honorable Minister, the center registered 51 candidates, and all of them sat this examination. 8 of them passed in Division 2. This time round, we did not have any in Division 1 like in the past. 16 of them passed in Division 3, 26 of them passed in Division 4, and happily only one failed, did not secure the minimum division. The other group are the special needs candidates, and we give a summary of the performance of different categories in that table number 6. We give the number that sat, those that passed in Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and those that did not qualify for the certificate, and they are in Division 9. Mama, what is worth taking note of in that table is the row for the deaf candidates. Just like you saw in the PLE, here we also note that most of the 120 candidates that sat, most of them, up to 74, that is 61.6%, can only pass in Division 4. And their failure rate is also higher at 17.5 than the other groups of special needs candidates. What is coming out, Honorable Minister, is that the language of instruction in schools is probably the problem. We need to increase the use of sign language in the schools so as to improve the ability of this group of special needs candidates to be able to learn more effectively. Honorable Minister, Uganda National Examinations Board will start examining sign language from the next year's exam, that is 2024, and we hope this will encourage the teaching of sign language whose curriculum has been developed by the National Curriculum Development Center. The table here is not including those other candidates that only needed extra time. So these ones are basically on the categories that can be easily defined. Honorable Minister, allow me to comment on the performance of the candidates. As we have stated in previous release statements before, the Uganda Certificate of Education examination is designed primarily to assess the degree of acquisition of necessary knowledge, skills, and competencies in the various learning areas, and also to lay a foundation for specialization at higher education levels. So the examination papers have been carefully constructed and go through the necessary quality assurance stages to ensure that the examination papers are valid, such that they test the candidate's knowledge, understanding, and ability to apply knowledge acquired to solve problems in new situations, and also to show analytical skills. In the sciences, the papers are also designed to test the candidate's ability to use the science apparatus that they have been provided with to perform experiments following the instructions given in the question papers, and to apply the science process skills of making measurements, observations, recording observations, and other data from the experiments that they would have carried out in the examination. They are then expected, Honorable Minister, to draw inferences or conclusions from the observations that they have made and to interpret the data that they have collected from the experiments. They should then be able to apply the basic scientific knowledge in problem-solving situations, including the problems in our environment. Honorable Minister, the weaknesses outlined below have been persistent, and we have mentioned them before, like the problem of language. We note that this year examiners reported better quality work in English language, although not at the grade 2 level. However, we still notice that in composition writing, where candidates are expected to exhibit creativity and originality, learners in some schools are still cramming passages from textbooks or what sometimes have been described as model compositions. And you see these with very unusual and difficult vocabulary that they reproduce. They reproduce these crammed passages irrespective of the topic that they have chosen in the examination paper. This practice is, fortunately, Honorable Minister, is beginning to decline because the candidates are beginning to realize, the teachers are also beginning to realize that those who do this are punished in that they lose marks and the scores that they would have got would be much reduced. In the comprehension passages, the candidates are also still finding difficulty in extracting appropriate information that would help them to correctly answer the questions that are asked based on the passage. We also observe weaknesses in using correct grammar in sentence construction. Some candidates also use SMS language. When they want to write before, they write a B and a 4 and expect the examiners to understand that B and 4 put together becomes B4, which is not in English. The essential skill of extracting main ideas from a passage and writing out a coherent summary, which is a very important skill in language, is also presenting a major problem to a lot of our candidates. This challenge in language is reflected, Honorable Minister, in other subjects where the examiners continue to report failure of the candidates to understand and interpret the demands of the tasks that are set in a particular question, their failure to follow instructions, misunderstanding very important words in a question that actually give direction to how that question should be handled, and then generally poor language expression. In the science practical, Honorable Minister, the problems have also remained the same as we have reported in recent years. The candidates are showing weaknesses in the handling of the apparatus during the practical tests. The weaknesses are also shown in making and recording observations, drawing conclusions from those observations, and tabulation of experimental results, and interpreting these results to meet the demands of the questions. They have also shown poor mathematical skills where they have to carry out calculations. This is a perennial problem. The inability to write correct science symbols, particularly in chemistry, formulae of compounds, and then writing equations, among others. Many of the candidates were observed to be able to take measurements. However, they do not know what to do with the data that they have gathered. So you find a candidate has a table of data that has been gathered from the experiments, and they stop at that, and the rest of the page is blank. They probably don't know how to proceed after they have gathered these data. There is a very unfortunate practice, Honorable Minister, probably being encouraged by the teachers, where a candidate doing an experiment takes the first reading, and thereafter, in the subsequent readings that they are supposed to take after manipulating the apparatus, they merely add a fixed value. And if they are supposed to take 6 readings, the next 5 readings simply vary by a fixed value from the first one. And then they end up with these forged figures in their experimental results. And you may find that candidates, a large number of candidates in an examination class have reproduced exactly the same readings, which obviously is not possible where candidates are working independently. A lot of candidates showed a lack of practical experience in handling the apparatus, as many schools tend to handle the practical aspects of the curriculum much later in the course. As a result, Mama, students do not develop the necessary skills, and perhaps this explains why most of the examination malpractice cases that we have seen this year and even previous year are in the science practical papers, especially in physics. Performance in the higher order questions have also been a problem, as we have reported previously. The candidates find it easy to answer those questions that require mainly knowledge and understanding, which are called the low order questions. The higher order questions, which require the candidates to apply knowledge in problem solving situations or to make conclusions from what they have done, these normally are not done very well. And as I've said, this has persisted. Honorable Minister, the issue of malpractice in exam continues. However, I am glad to report that because of the measures that we have put in place, there has been a welcome reduction in cases of examination malpractice. Now we have experienced most of these in physics and chemistry practical examinations, and then mathematics, as a result of external assistance given by third parties. We have also experienced collusion, that is, candidates willingly sharing their work, probably the more able candidates sharing their work with their friends who are less able. We have also witnessed impersonation, where registered candidates have hired other persons to sit the examinations for them, and we have also witnessed some cases of substitution of scripts. In other words, a script that is written by a candidate in the examination room is removed and replaced with another one written by somebody else. As a result, Honorable Minister, a total of 1,035 results will be withheld in accordance with Section 5, subsection 2B of the Uneb Act 2021. The number of results to be withheld has been reducing. Even in 2020, Honorable Minister, we reported a reduction in cases of malpractice. We are going to intensify our engagements with the stakeholders, and we believe that with the new law in place and its implementation, we will continue to record lower cases of examination malpractice. Those centers, Honorable Minister, will be notified through their portals, And then after that, there will be a hearing where candidates will be given an opportunity to defend themselves. Honorable Minister, allow me to appreciate. I want to start expressing my very profound appreciation to you, Honorable Minister, and the Ministry of Education. The support that you give us has been explained by my chairperson. It enables us to get the resources and also the morale, Mama, to do the work even in some of the most difficult situations that the chairperson has mentioned. I also want to thank the Parliamentary Committee on Education and Sports for their efforts in obtaining, in ensuring that UNEB obtains the budgetary allocation that it needs to run the examination, and the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development for availing the funds. I wish also, Honorable Minister, to thank all those persons, the police, the UPDF, and other security agencies who rendered invaluable services to UNEB during the monitoring of the field conduct of the examination. They are part of the reason why we are seeing a reduction in cases of examination malpractice. I sincerely thank the area supervisors, these that represent UNEB in the field, and the heads of the examination centers and our invigilators who conducted the examination in accordance with the stipulated board's regulations and also adhered to the Ministry of Health guidelines on the control of COVID-19 and the Ebola outbreak. Allow me, Mama, to introduce two persons from the security who were seconded and worked very, very closely with us throughout the examination period. Mama, with your permission, I request them maybe to step forward and salute you. Mama, from the UPDF, we had Colonel Sylvia Meme from the military police, who on behalf of Colonel Don Nabasa, the commandant of the military police, coordinated all the efforts of the military police in assisting the board throughout the country. Then from the police, we have the Assistant Commissioner Godfrey Mate, who was also assigned from the side of the police. These two worked very, very closely with us to ensure the smooth conduct of the exam, right from transportation right to the very end. Mama, I also thank the examiners whose hard work ensured that the marking ended on schedule. I'm also grateful to the heads of the schools that allowed Uganda National Examinations Board to use their premises as marking centers. Finally, Mama, in a very special way, allow me to thank the staff of the UNEB Secretariat for their utmost perseverance, selfless commitment to duty, and the personal sacrifices that they made to ensure that the 2022 UCE results are being released today. They are being represented here by a few of them. The Director of Examinations, Mr. Nangosia Mike Masiche, the Manager of Examinations Management, Mr. James Turiatemba, the Manager of Examinations Development, Mrs. Florence Agola Buinza Nalongo, Principal Examinations Officer in charge of Test Development Secondary, Mrs. Joyce Awor Ebal, the Principal Examinations Officer, Examinations Management Secondary, Mr. Jonas Sunday, the Principal Public Relations Officer, Mrs. Jennifer Kalule Musamba, the Principal Assistant to the Executive Director, Ms. Letitia Naigaga. An Honorable Minister on my left, I have Esther, a very able special sign language specialist at the board. Access to the results, Honorable Minister, the heads of examination centers can download the results from their portals as soon as you release them. We do not have any hard copy results to be issued. And we are saying that from Monday, those who may still insist on coming for hard copies, they can come on Monday. And candidates and other persons who may wish to access these results can do so through the SMS system on MTN and Airtel networks. We advise that they go to the message menu, and type UCE and leave space. Then please put in the correct index number and then send to 6600. Many people continue to call us and say we are not able to access the results, when in effect they have made a mistake. They have not entered the correct index number. Either they have not put the stroke or they have entered insufficient figures. If you do that, you will not get the results. But the Airtel will, the network will have already charged you, although you don't get the result. So you will have to try again. Finally, Honorable Minister, we would also like to appeal to the heads of examination centers to study the examination lists and submit any queries that they may find to UNEB via their portal, and we ask that this is done within 15 working days from today's date. Queries that are submitted after this date may not be attended to. Honorable Minister, we have also prepared district statistics showing division passes, Division 1 or Grade 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Grade 9, and then Division X, meaning those that did not sit the examination although they were registered. We've done this for each district, and the districts are arranged in alphabetical order. And we have also disaggregated these statistics by gender. So you're able to see the number of males and the number of females that scored any particular grade in any of the district. Honorable Minister, allow me to submit. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Odong, for the release statement. May I now invite the chairperson of UNEB to officially come and present the results to the Honorable First Lady and Minister of Education.
The First Lady and Honorable Minister of Education and Sports, Mama Janet Museveni, on behalf of UNEB, it's my great pleasure to present the UCE results of 2022 to you for release to the country.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going and coming.
Thank you very much, Professor Okwakol, and thank you very much, Dr. Dan Odong, for the results 2023 UCE. Ladies and gentlemen, we all must agree here that Uneb has done a good job. We are all aware that we are recovering from many challenges associated with COVID-19, and this particular exam, it was conducted during a period when part of the country had issues, some districts of the country had issues. We also had some administrative issues internally there, but with the resilience of UNEB, all these were sorted out without a hitch. So we thank you, UNEB, and we hope that you'll continue doing a good job. Ladies and gentlemen, our Permanent Secretary, Madam Katie Lamaro, is in the house. You are welcome, Madam PS. And any other person that I was not able to recognize, I want to say now that you are welcome to this presentation. The cameras can move around as we wait for the minister to return. I am calling upon Honorable Minister of State for Hire, Honorable Muyingo, to be on alert. I'm going to request him to say a few words and also invite the minister to address the nation. Honorable Muyingo, this is just to alert you that in a few seconds I'll be calling upon you. I also want to thank my neighbor here who doesn't talk, but she's communicating a message to the country. Thank you so much. After all this, we shall have a photo session. And we shall have basically 2 photos. We shall have that great team from UNEB, led by their chairperson and the executive director, joined by our permanent secretary and the honorable members of parliament. They will have a photo session with the minister. Then after that one, we shall have a general photograph with all the officials who are here. So just prepare that at the end of all this, we shall call upon you for this photo session. Immediately after the photo session, we shall depart. Thank you so much. The examination term has started in our schools. We are also mindful that we are running out of time. Just last week we had this one selection. They are yet to report. Today we are concluding this release of UCE 2022. They will also soon report. I know it is stressful to the parents, but we shall try to space the candidates appropriately. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me now invite Honorable Minister of State for Higher Education, Honorable Jesse Miyingo, to make a statement, a short statement, but also invite the First Lady and Minister of Education to give her address to the nation. Honorable Miyingo.
Thank you very much, MC. Our dear Chief Guest, Mama, the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, my sister, the Honorable Minister of State for Education, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education and Sports, the Chairperson and members of the Uneb Board of the Executive Director of UNEB, staff, ladies and gentlemen, my dear colleagues, the honorable members of Parliament, apologies. Ladies and gentlemen, Mama, my duty this morning is very simple, to invite you and address the country. But allow me to make only 2 statements. One, Mama, I want to, on behalf of all my colleagues, to welcome you very warmly to this function. And thank you for inviting and hosting us in State House, Mama. Mama, we don't want to take this for granted. We know how busy you are, but your presence, personal presence here today, when we are releasing the Senior 4 results, confirms the great support and interest you have in what we do. Mama, I want to thank you. Mama, these exams were conducted during the time when Uganda was being terrorized by COVID and Ebola. This period was a very difficult period. There were very many fears, many uncertainties, but Mama, we want to thank you for the support, the care, and the guidance you provided during that time. Mama, we thank you for that great leadership. Is that enough, people? Mama has always been there for us, and we are really very grateful. Mama, the second point, and this is going to be the last one. Reports from the field indicate that some of our head teachers have completely switched off communication with the public. Their phones are off, others are not even in the school, running away from those pressures associated with the people who are seeking placement in their schools. I feel this is very dangerous, and I want to pray that our head teachers do not run away from work that requires their presence at school. Sit down, listen to what the parents are saying, explain to them. After all, you have our support. Mama, the second thing that comes from the field is that quite a number of Ugandans who are of school-going age have not yet reported back to school for this academic term. This is equally dangerous, and I want to appeal to the parents, to the leadership, local LOC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 councillors, members of Parliament, to join our efforts to mobilize all our children of school-going age to go back to school as soon as yesterday. Mama, with those few comments, I want to invite you to address the country. Thank you, Mama.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Mingo. My colleagues, Ministers of State for Education, Honorable Members of Parliament present here this afternoon, the PS for the Ministry of Education and your team, the Chairperson of Uneb, the Executive Secretary of Uneb and your team, the media fraternity, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. And let me begin my remarks, as always, by thanking God for His faithfulness in taking our children through a very difficult time of the COVID-19 pandemic and Ebola outbreak, and He enabled them to sit for their Uganda Certificate of Education examination and to conclude without any tragic incidents or fatalities reported. Therefore, we do have every reason to celebrate this release of results, indeed just like that of the PLE 2022, and to testify that in spite of the challenges, God is still with us and He's still doing great things for us. Secondly, we have even greater reasons to celebrate these results and to report to the country that the candidature, as you heard from Uneb, the candidature which had declined in 2020 has now picked up and actually surpassed the previous numbers by a more significant proportion of 4.8%. This is indeed an indication that with God's blessing, we have largely overcome the problem of having closed schools for close to 2 years and the other effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, in 2019, as you heard Mr. Odongo say, we celebrated the increase in the number of girls registering for the UCE examination, which had always been lower than that of the boys. At the time, we noted that not only had the number of girls completing PLE caught up with the number of boys, but also the number of girls was significantly higher than that of the boys. Unfortunately, however, in 2022, this positive trend appears to have reversed in favor of the boys once again. The nation therefore must be concerned that over 30,000 girls do not transition to complete the next level after PLE. Consequently, we at the Ministry of Education and Sports consider this a matter of great concern, and we find it necessary to provide an explanation to the nation regarding this challenge that affects the education and development of the girl child. I have therefore instructed the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Education and Sports to conduct a study in this area that we may understand the issues at hand and authoritatively inform the nation. Now, once more, I regrettably note that the cases of absenteeism that have been decreasing have now increased again by 0.3%, meaning some 560 candidates over that of 2020, as I noted during the release of PLE 2022 results. This is of great concern to the ministry and therefore must be of concern to all the stakeholders. This is especially so since these young people are in school for all the 4 years. They then register for examinations, only to miss out at the end, thus losing out of transitioning to the next level of their education. So again, we must find answers to these questions, and we will. Furthermore, the ministry acknowledges the poor performance in biology, which has been reoccurring through subsequent releases of the UCE results. This matter is currently being addressed through the intervention of curriculum reviews. These reviews aim at, among other things, doing away with obsolete information, reducing subject content overload, and contact hours in the classroom, so as to create time for research, talent development, and creativity, among other things. This, we hope, will help improve the learners' performance. Similarly, the ministry notes that this year, the overall performance in the science subjects that are compulsory is not yet satisfactory, although there is some improvement. Government is committed to promoting the teaching and learning of science subjects, as you know. The Ministry of Education and Sports will look into this matter and, where necessary, re-examine our policies to address areas of concern in this regard. Now, on a happier note though, as the chairperson of Uneb reported earlier, the government learned about the impact of COVID-19 on the teaching learning time and devised an abridged curriculum. This meant that the National Curriculum Development Center had to review the content and remove duplication in subjects that tended to lengthen the curriculum and the completion time. This exercise was accomplished at the right time. Therefore, it pleases me to hear that this did not have any negative effect on the core skills and competencies that learners require to advance to the next level. It is also noteworthy that UNEB examined the Chinese language for the first time, along with other foreign languages, as you have already heard. This is a welcome development. The knowledge of Chinese is vital for us, given the ever-increasing levels of engagements between Uganda and China in the various fields: educational, cultural, technological, and commerce. This is also why, as a country, we must ensure that our people can communicate in these major languages such as French, German, Arabic, and even Swahili at the East African level. These efforts strengthen our competitiveness in the global village. Now, as we emerge from the pandemic and the Ebola outbreak, God continues to work in formidable ways in our learners. They continue to obtain better results every year as more of them qualify to join higher levels of education. I therefore appeal to the teachers to give effect to the significant interventions that government has put in to improve the teaching of sciences especially. Talking about teachers now also brings me to the subject of the arts teachers, as you heard my colleague, Honorable Miyingo, remark. I cannot finish what I'm saying without mentioning the very important fact that government is looking to the arts teachers now to show their loyalty to God, to their government, and the children they teach. As I told you, teachers, at the World Teachers' Day, please leave the matter of your remuneration to your mother ministry, the Ministry of Education and Sports, working with the Ministry of Public Service. I reiterate that today. This is our burden as a ministry, and we will not rest until a fair solution is found. You go ahead and do your best and trust God to do the rest. Ladies and gentlemen, the rise of examination malpractices now, and the equally disturbing issue of head teachers that misappropriate the learners' examination registration fees. This also continues to be a great challenge that negatively impacts on the education of our children. I wish to once again categorically state that the Ministry of Education and Sports will not tolerate examination malpractices. Indeed, the Uneb Act of 2021 provides for punitive action for those found guilty of participating in and condoning this practice. Additionally, I wish to warn the proprietors of schools who are found to be involved in the misappropriation of these examination registration fees that the Uganda National Examination Board will not hesitate to suspend or even cancel the affected examination centers, as is provided for in Section 32, subsection 4 of the Uneb Act of 2021. Finally, I'd like to thank the chairperson, the board, the executive director and staff of Uneb for the wonderful work they have done in successfully delivering the results of these examinations. I congratulate the candidates who have performed well, and for those who have not done as well as they expected, there is time to try once again, or to seize the other opportunities available to acquire skills for life. I join UNEB in thanking the security agencies represented here today by Colonel Memes Livia from UPDF and Assistant Commissioner of Police Mr. Mate Godfrey from the Uganda Police Force, and all other persons that worked in various agencies in conducting of these examinations. The selection exercise for Senior 5 now will be held on 23rd and 24th February 2023 at the Uganda Manufacturers Association Exhibition Hall. The date for reporting to school for Senior 5 will be the 6th of March 2023. It is now my pleasure to release the 2022 Uganda Certificate of Examination results for public use. As you have already seen, these are the results. I thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you, Mama First Lady, for those wonderful, that wonderful statement to the country. Mama, may I request Honorable Muyingo to translate those salient, important messages in your statement and translate them into Luganda and present it to us. Honorable Muyingo, please. Just summarize the main issues in that language.
Mama, thank you very much. Summary, okusooka Minister afulumiza ebyavudde mu bigezo ebyakolwa omwaka oguwedde abaana baffe ab'ekibiina siniya eyokuna. Minister yeebazizza nnyo, Minister era Maama yeebazizza nnyo Omukama Katonda ffenna atusobozesezza okutuuka wano we tuli, naddala yasobozesa abaana baffe beexaminers abakuteekateeka ebigezo bino ne basobola okubikola obulungi natuusa ku lunaku olwaleero. Mama Minister si musanyufu olwa okulaba nti abaana baffe bangi naddala abaana abawala bakyava mu masomero nga tebannamaliriza kusoma. Balaze emitwalo 3 gy'abaana abawala abatamalaako. Era alagidde Permanent Secretary wa Ministry of Education and Sports okukola okunoonyereza tulabe nti abaana baffe bonna bonna abagenda mu ssomero naddala abaana abawala bamalako. Era minisita mwennyamivu olw'okuba nti abaana baffe bakyagenda mu maaso nga bakola bubi amasomo ga sciences. Batugambye olwaleero nti biology lirimu ugasinza okukolebwa obubi. Ekintu ekyo maama kimusanyusizza era permanent secretary ajja kutwala obudde ne ttiimu ye nga banoonyereza kiki ddala ekivaako okukola obubi era abaana tubayambye tutya olwo tujja kubanga tusobola okwogera n'eddoboozi. Maama musanyufu nti ku lukangaga lw'ennimi ze tusomesa era ze tubadde tu examininga nga Uneb kweyongeddeko okusomesa Oluchina era abaana baffe abasukka mu 90% baluyitidde waggulu. Maama yeebazizza abo bonna abayambye ku Uneb okulaba nti ebigezo by'omwaka guno bikolebwa ne bigwa mu budde. Naye ayongedde okukakasa kyeyagamba nti abo bonna abazannyira ku bigezo nga babbira minisitule yaffe y'ebyenjigiriza tejja kubagumiikiriza wadde omulundi ogumu. Naye kinaaba kitegeeza to suspend oba okusazaamu examination center zaabwe tujja kukikola okulaba nti omuze guno ogw'okubbira kubba mu bigezo guggweerawo ddala. Maama yeebazizza abasomesa mulimu omulungi gwe bakola mu masomero ate era n'abajjukiza nti ekigambo kyabagamba luli nti ekigambo ekikwata ku musaala gwabwe babitulekere nga ministry tukyagenda mu maaso okulaba nti embeera eyo egeetereera ffe twenyigire ku mulimu gwa Katonda gwe yatuwa ogw'okusomesa abaana b'eggwanga. Ndowooza ekyo samara emala.
Webale nnyo Honorable Muyingo. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, can we now stand for the anthems? But before we stand, we are going to have 2 photo sessions. The first session will have the First Lady and Minister and the ministers who are here of state, PS, Uneb Chair, Uneb ED, and the 3 honorable MPs will all be seated. Then the Uneb officials will stand behind them, and the security, police and the army representatives. That will be one session. Then Uneb officials will move away, and the minister officials will join and stand behind the ministers for the second photo. Thank you very much. May we now stand for the anthems. Thank you very much. Can we step forward? The first group, we go for the photos.